There's a small detail about Novak Djokovic's backhand that if you can copy will absolutely help you get smooth and easy power. Now, this video is courtesy of 12K GP Tennis on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to their awesome channel. I've put their link in the description below. So first, let's watch him hit these 7 backhands, and then we'll analyze it. Now, the best way for you to know if you are copying or not copying Djokovic is to go out and film yourself from the back view and just check the footage and see if you're able to do what you're about to learn in this video. There are 2 things we need to discuss, and then we'll talk about the relationship between those 2 things. First, we're going to talk about the body. Next, we're going to talk about the racket. Last, we'll talk about the relationship between them. First, the body. Let's look at how much his body rotates. So here his body is facing Medvedev. Here his body is perfectly sideways, right? His chest is facing to the side, so his body is turned 90 degrees. But he keeps turning, and now we see more of his chest. That means he has turned past sideways. So let's give it a number. Let's say he has turned with his chest 120 degrees, right? So that's 30 degrees past 90. Now, he's rotating as he's striking the ball. His body is basically facing the net post is what you have to think of it. And then he hits the ball. Now his chest is facing Medvedev. And when he's done, now his body is basically facing the right net post. And then he goes back to square again. So now that we understand, it goes from 0 to 120 to 45 at contact. After contact, he squares up. And then the follow through and the continuation of the uncoiling gets his body to face over to this right net post. Now let's talk about the racket. The racket makes 3 basic movements. It goes back high, and you can see the racket head and his head are at a similar height. This is called 2 heads are better than 1 or 2-headed monster. Then the racket goes down, and now the racket, that's the second movement. So back high, down. The third movement is up and through contact. So back high, down, up and through. So now what's the relationship between these 2 movements, the body movement and the racket movement? Well, the racket going back high is a byproduct of the body turning 120 degrees. So the racket goes back 180 as the body turns about 120. Now that 120 is not a hard and fast rule. It's just you want to turn past 90. That's basically what you want to do. The amount you turn can very much be related to the amount of neck flexibility that you have that you can rotate the body and still be able to keep your eye on the ball. All right. But here's the critical thing that you need to check to see if you're copying with your 2-handed backhand. The body is now fully coiled. Notice his racket is now going to drop. So watch his racket go down, but he is already uncoiling the body as the racket is going down. Look at his body uncoiling as the racket drops. So what you could say is there are 2 movements, coiling and uncoiling of the body, 2 movements of the body, 3 movements of the racket. So what's the relationship? The body coils while the racket's going back high, and it begins uncoiling as the racket drops, as the second movement of the racket, and then up and through the ball as the third movement of the racket. The reason I bring this up is because I recently had a student live on Zoom, and I was helping her with her 2-handed backhand. And what we noticed was that she would turn just like Djokovic, but her racket would drop down into this yellow circle, which you can see Djokovic's racket is in the yellow circle, but there would be no body movement and no uncoiling. And she complained that her backhand had no power, and she really felt like she had to muscle the ball. And in order to get easy power, I suggested that she keep her body continually in motion, meaning coil And the moment she's done coiling, she needs to immediately begin uncoiling. Watch Djokovic's body, how there's no pause of the body. You know, it has to pause in order to change direction, but he doesn't stay still. He coils. Here we see his chest. His back is showing to Medvedev. And then the moment he's fully coiled, he immediately begins uncoiling. What we noticed from this student of mine is her racket went down and her chest stayed facing back 30 degrees, which is 90 plus 30, right? Or 30 degrees, which is 120. So her body stayed sideways or passed sideways, waiting for the racket to drop. So what you want is to uncoil so you get a little bit of separation where the body begins uncoiling before the racket has fully dropped all the way down. That separation really whips the racket through contact. Please go out and film your two-handed backhand. See that you are at least rotating your body past 90 degrees, right? So the 120 would be amazing. Then check to see that you're facing at least forward, if not facing the opposite net post when you're done. Once you know that your body is rotating enough, then check to see that your body turns with the racket high. And then the moment you coil all the way, you immediately begin uncoiling as the racket drops. I will tell you, this is one of the reasons why Djokovic has this right wrist curl. A lot of players will say, how do I get my wrist to curl? And what they do is they force the racket down. They just force it with their wrists, like they're dropping their racket the racket head into a bucket, right? Imagine there's a bucket and they're just dropping the racket head into a bucket. It's not a forceful movement dropping the racket down. It'll actually hurt your power. What we want are the hands to go forward because the body is uncoiling as the racket is dropping. And the wrist, the right wrist for right-handers, left wrist for lefties, is a hinge. This actually helps you close the racket face. It helps drop the racket head below the ball so you can swing low to high for topspin. This critical relationship must be copied if you want the power that the pros have. Take the racket back high by rotating the body with the unit turn, and then immediately start rotating back as the racket drops. You will hit the smoothest, most powerful, most consistent two-handed backhand you ever have. Now, the best way to practice these techniques at home is with a Topspin Pro. You can get a Topspin Pro using my link. It's in the description. I'm also going to pin it in the first comment. I absolutely love the Topspin Pro, and I know you will too. And if you're looking for people in your local area to play matches against or practice with, maybe you want to find a local league at your level, or you'd love to find a coach who's close to you who can help you with your game, then use my link for PlayYourCourt. And it's playyourcourt.com/2-minute-tennis. When you use my link to sign up, you get 50% off. So click right there to get the Topspin Pro using my link so you can practice these ideas at home. And go out and film yourself. Film yourself on the Topspin Pro. Make sure you're rotating your body back toward the net as the racket's dropping. You do this, there's no doubt. You're going to gain confidence, win more matches, and play much better tennis. This is Ryan Reedy from 2minutetennis.net. You got this.